Hey everyone, welcome to Malta 5. I'm JD, and as usual, I'm here playing the jankiest Tier 3 spicy rogue brews for your viewing pleasure. First things first, if you enjoy what we do here, please take a moment to like and subscribe. It's a quick and easy way to show your support and help out the channel. Also, I'd like to thank our sponsor Main Phase Media. These videos would not be possible without them, so please check them out for all your graphic design and video production needs. And finally, if you have your own janky masterpiece you'd like to see me play, please leave a comment or shoot an email to the address in the description below. And now we'll get straight to the deck tech. And today is Tribal Tuesday, but we're not playing your typical tribal deck based around creature types. Rather, we're playing Arcades Defenders, which is based around the ability Defender. So we'll start with the namesake card, Arcades the Strategist. He's in Bant colors, 4 mana, 3/5 flying vigilance. Whenever a creature with Defender enters the battlefield under our control, we draw a card, and all our defenders assign combat damage equal to their toughness rather than their power, and they can attack as though they didn't have Defender. So obviously this is a crazy build around card, just asking for tons of defenders. This card's amazing. Every time we are casting defenders, we're drawing cards, which is great card advantage, and now all of a sudden, with Arcades on the battlefield, our 0/4s, defenders, become 4/4s essentially. So they become pretty big beaters. A 2 mana 4/4, a 1 mana 4/4 with Permanent Captain. So namesake card, Arcades is great. Unfortunately, he's legendary, so we can't have more than one out at a time, but we do want the full 4 in the deck because the deck revolves around him so heavily. So I've also included a couple Court of Calling as essentially Arcades numbers 5 and 6. We're going to be using this to search out Arcades 99% of the time. Sometimes we could search out, Wall of Denial for a big beater or whatever we might need, but 99% of the time we're looking for Arcades. So these are just essentially additional copies of Arcades in the deck. It'll cost us 7 mana to find Arcades, but luckily it has the ability Convoke, and since our deck is playing 28 creatures, it's usually pretty easy to pay the 7 mana. Even if we've got 3 lands on the battlefield, as long as we have 4 creatures to help, we can find Arcades. So Court of Calling's pretty perfect. Again, so the other effect similar to Arcades is in the enchantment Assault formation. It's not nearly as good as Arcades, but it is a similar effect, and we need as much of this effect in our deck for it to actually work. Otherwise, we're sitting there with a bunch of defenders that don't really do anything. So Assault formation is 2 mana enchantment. Each creature assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, which is great. The only downside is in order to have them be able to attack, to basically lose the defender ability, we have to pay 1 green to target a creature and give it the ability to attack. So it's not a static ability like Arcades where it's just always active. We have to sink mana into it to actually get our guys going. So not quite as good, but it is the next best thing. It also has a secondary ability. We can pump even more mana into it to buff up our team with +0/+1, which in our deck really means +1/+1. And now, so to get to this green mana to pump into Assault formation, we have this card, Overgrown Battlement, which is really great in our deck. It's a 2 mana 0/4 defender, but it taps for green for each creature with defender we control. So this thing could be tapping for 3 or 4 green mana. It really ramps out of control, and it's a good way to generate the mana we need to pump into Assault formation. So we'll go through and take a look at the other defenders here. We have Wall of Omens, which is a great card. It replaces itself. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. This thing's great to keep up the card advantage. Jeskai Barricade is interesting. This one has Flash, and so we can cast it, at the end of our opponent's turn to avoid sorcery speed sweepers, that sort of thing. We can flash it in response to a targeted removal spell to save one of our other walls, save our Arcades. We can flash this in, return Arcades back to our hand and save it. The only thing it can't target, unfortunately, is Wall of Denial, because Wall of Denial has Shroud, which means it can't be the target of our opponent's spells or abilities, but it also can't be the target of ours. So we can't target it with Assault Formation. We can't target it with Jeskai Barricade. So it's not ideal for those reasons, but it is a 0/8 for 3 with Defender and Flying. So if we've got Arcades, online, this basically becomes an 8/8 flyer for 3 mana. So it was just too good not to include. It's really difficult to deal with the Shroud. So I had to throw 4 of them in. And so Wall of Denial, Arcades the Strategist are the 2 reasons we're playing blue. It's just kind of a light splash of blue. Otherwise, we're pretty heavy into the green and white. But in order to ramp and help us meet those blue costs, I've included Birds of Paradise. It's not really a defender, but it does benefit from the Arcades ability. It now becomes a 1/1 flyer, and if we start pumping it up with Assault Formation, it can become bigger than that. So, if you're not using it for mana, you can at least still chip in with a 1/1 flyer, which is not bad, but it also helps fix and ramp us. Who else we got? I think the last one is Perimeter Captain. It's a 1-drop, which is nice. We need plays on turn 1. It's either going to be a Birds of Paradise or a Perimeter Captain. It's a 0/4 defender. Whenever a creature you control with Defender blocks, you may gain 2 life. So this card's actually pretty great, because in the early turns, we're not going to be doing a ton until we get our Arcades online, maybe our Assault Formation. But we will have a couple brick walls in the way. And so whenever they're blocking, which they can generally do pretty safely, we are gaining life, which is kind of giving us a buffer and giving us some more time against some of the faster decks to get our game plan online. So Perimeter Captain, pretty solid. Then to round it out is just 4 Path to Exile. We're in white, so we need some creature interaction, and this is just the best removal spell in the format. So jammed in 4 Path to Exile. The mana base is pretty self-explanatory. 22 lands. We've got a single Breeding Pool, a single Hallowed Fountain, a single island, and then the rest is Windswept Heaths, Fetch Land, Temple Garden, Plains, and Basic Forests. So that just about does it for the main deck. In the sideboard, Shaper Sanctuary comes in against maybe control or attrition base, like Jund type decks. They're going to be trying to get rid of our creatures with Path to Exile or Fatal Push. Whenever they do try to target our stuff, we're at least drawing cards, which is nice. Relic of Progenitus for graveyard strategies. Hurkyl's Recall against artifact type decks. Unified Will is an excellent counterspell in our deck. This will come in against control or anything that runs sweepers, especially that are trying to just wipe our board. This comes in, and generally against those type of decks, we're going to have more creatures than they do, and so this is just a hard counter. Also great against decks where we just have to counter what they're doing, combo decks, even Tron if they're trying to throw out their big pieces. And then Damping Sphere is some more Tron hate, Storm hate. It keeps their lands from tapping for a ton, keeps Storm players from comboing off. So Damping Spear kind of just rounds out the hate cards. And I think that about does it for Arcades Defenders. I'm pretty excited about this one. I think it might have some game, but we shall find out. So that does it for the deck tech. We're going to try this pile of cards in a friendly Modern League and see how we do. So I will see you in the first match.